just running their mouth. What's up, bang out. These niggas just running their mouth. These niggas don't sold no fire. These niggas don't live that.
Post this brother video, KCDG.
Backlash after Black Lives Matter activists side with Cuba's communist regime, not the Cuban citizens in the streets that are demanding basic freedoms.
BLM support for the Cuban police state coming right as it amps up a campaign of police brutality, cracking down on protesters after days of demonstrations.
BLM explains its support by praising Cuba for helping black revolutionaries, specifically naming FBI most wanted cop killer Joanne Chesimard, who has been living in Cuba since escaping prison in the U.S. decades ago, John.
We are seeing the same finger pointing at our country right now from the United Nations, which looks to investigate the U.S. and racism. The Biden White House saying it would welcome such a probe, leaving Republicans asking why our country is under the microscope without one word on the religious bigotry in China, where a minority group, the Uyghurs, is being locked up and tortured.
Republican Florida Senator Marco Rubio joins us now. Senator, welcome.
Thank you.
First, want to get your reaction to Biden inviting the UN to examine the U.S.'s record on racism. Is this a good idea?
Well, not only is it stupid, but it actually, why isn't he convening the United Nations Security Council to talk about the fact that this Sunday and throughout the week, a regime 90 miles from our shores has been killing people because they went out demanding liberty? That's what they should be looking at. So if you're going to invite the UN to come into the U.S. to tell us how racist we are, you should at least also ask them to look into the horrifying situation that's unfolding in Cuba, a borderline, an epic catastrophe that's spiraling out of control. Where's that invested? Why aren't they focused on that? It's just honestly, you wake up every day, you read these things, and it's like, this can't be real. It almost feels like it's something from The Onion or one of these satire websites. It's I don't even know how to describe it. I'm out of words.
Senator Rubio, the Secretary of State, described it this way. He said responsible nations must not shrink from scrutiny of their human rights record. Rather, they should acknowledge it with the intent to improve. Here's what the press secretary said when questioned by our Peter Ducey about it.
As the Secretary said in his statement, he believes responsible nations must not shrink from scrutiny of their human rights record. Rather, they should acknowledge it with the intent to improve it, and also push and lift up and shine a light on other countries that need to do better. And that is the role we're playing here from the United States.
So the basic premise here is that, if you want to have the moral high ground on human rights, you need to show transparency. But what nation on the planet has been more transparent than the United States when it comes to our history and what goes on here on a daily basis?
Yeah, I have a record second to none, and I'm proud to say it, on human rights in the United States Senate. Okay, no one. We have some great partners across the aisle and on our side, but no one has done more on human rights, from the Uyghur bill we passed just yesterday, which was my bill, on nation after nation. You look at a human rights cause somewhere in the world, and I've been among, if not the loudest voice on it. Okay, so let me tell you, everybody, I assure you of this. There are like 199 other countries that we should worry about on human rights before we get to America. In America, we have transparency. Okay? In America, we have a press that covers whatever they want. Sometimes they lie, sometimes they cover, sometimes it's a half-truth. But you do something wrong in America, it's all over the place. We have a system of courts. We have people go to jail here because they do things that are not right. And so I think that before you get to the human rights record of the U.S., if you're going to rank them in order of problematic, there's like 199 other places we'd have to deal with first.
Wow, very powerful response to that. Also want to get your response to BLM, Black Lives Matter, weighing in on the chaos in Cuba. Obviously a story near and dear to your heart. Black Lives Matter condemns, this is their statement, the U.S. federal government's inhumane treatment of Cubans and urges it to immediately lift the economic embargo. Senator, is it the U.S.'s fault for what is happening in Cuba and the lack of freedoms those people have? Because the last I saw, they were waving the American flag, chanting freedom.
Yeah, the first thing, let me tell you that the only reason why I even addressed the Black Lives Matter, that's an organization that put that out there. The only reason I even address it is because they have shaken down multiple U.S. corporations to the tune of millions and millions of dollars that then they use for their leader, by the way, a trained Marxist, as she called herself, to go out and spend a bunch of money in a spa resort and actually bought herself a multi-million-dollar home. They are charlatans. They are a Ponzi scheme. They are a fraud. So that's the only reason I care about them, is because they've shaken down and continue to shake down corporations. Now, in the case of the embargo, the only embargo on Cuba is the one the Cuban government has imposed on its own people. Do you know who the #1 food export?
Man, I was when I grew up, man. Not the Black Lives, and what I saw is not the Black moment, I saw a bunch of unruly white kids on spring break having the time of their lives with great excitement. And they're going like, yeah, man, last week, man, we got high, man. We was up there on the 14th floor, man, of the Hilton, man, and we trashed the place, man. I was drunk, man, and I had a good time, man. You should have been there. Or at the end of the cattle drive, the cowboys shoot up the town because they're drunk. You got a lot of cops out there that are getting the excitement they signed up for. If you look at the feeds, not the news that they show you, you will see 9 out of every 10 or 11 people out there are white folk. And when you do see somebody black, it's some fat woman that looks like she ought to be on the Aunt Jemima box with an armload of athletic shoes she has looted and not about to put them on to work out because she can't run to the end of her driveway if she's got one. So they put that out, and it's a mess. So what are they doing when they do have some concern with us? Poor Oscar and poor Al, they're in the backyards in this winter cold, and they're so miserable. They have not known love. And if you don't contribute $19.95 a month to the ASPCA, they will never know love, and we won't be able to save them. Or the polar bears. What are we going to do about the polar bears with the melting ice caps? $19.95 a month. So you have billionaires and large mega industries giving much money to BLM so they can raise the salaries for the 4 lesbians that founded it. Or the Black Lives Matter movement becomes a co-optation where the good people who have consciences that bother them can take care of their particular 2-legged animals, the Negroes, the colored, the blacks, the African American, and go that way. So we get this thing where we are being charitable. We have too many institutions, say the NAACP, that have a dual purpose. W.B. Du Bois was in on the founding along with a Jewish female and a Jewish male, and they set up the NAACP because they were tired of Jews getting jumped on in this country. So the theory was, is if you couldn't do it to a Negro, you couldn't do it to a Jew. And then Thurgood Marshall developed this plan with the NAACP where they would use ASPCA laws, American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animal type laws, for the first part of the 20th century, with the theory being that if you couldn't do it to a dog, you couldn't do it to a Negro, and if you couldn't do it to a Negro, you couldn't do it to a Jew. So we get used and abused for everybody's purposes, and right now I'm not so sure racism is the worst thing we got to deal with as it is having been co-opted to front off of this gay movement. Now, I don't care what you do behind closed doors in your bedroom. That's your First Amendment right. But they have attempted to co-opt us for some very evil purposes, and most of that's got to do with their desire to destroy the family. Because 50-some years ago, all of us up here with all this gray, we all saw those lesbians running around talking about marriage and the family are the worst forms of slavery for a woman. They just happen to be ugly looking, crazy acting, bad attitude types who couldn't find a man, but they hated what they are, hated what they wanted to be, and they're trying to make the whole society adopt their self-hate. Nothing wrong with somebody gay doing what he wants to do, but I got told by a former gay employee of mine, that all gays were not into LGBTQ, just like all black folk aren't Democrats. It is a political thing, and some of the things that they're advocating that have bad effects on the family are not what they approve of. And what I'm looking at is an overwhelming matriarchy in the black community that needs to be overhauled, and patriarchy, contrary to BLM's mantra and what we believe and they publish. Black men need to start taking charge again, and the people we support under BLM are saying the last thing we need is black men being in charge, and they specifically state as one of their causes to destroy men being being in charge, or what we put male-centric, or the heteronormative to society, the way they put it, is their enemy and must be destroyed. So we are being co-opted. Our leadership is closet something other than us, with the understanding that they can elect a new minority status. They don't have to be black anymore. They can bend over, drop their boxes, and get it, and be gotten. And now they've been initiated, so they no longer are men to be opposing the power structure. They become sex objects for the power structure, and they've got a totally new minority status that is supported by powerful people in very high places. So we are being co-opted. Our leadership is closet something other than us, with the understanding that they can elect a new minority status. They don't have to be black anymore. They can bend over, drop their boxes, and get it, and be gotten. And now they've been initiated, so they no longer are men to be opposing the power structure. They become sex objects for the power structure, and they've got a totally new minority status that is supported by powerful people in very high places. They are destroying our children. They've got trannies out there hurting girls, competing against them, failed boys that can't compete as athletes, declaring that they're girls with no further ado, and going out injuring women, young women in full contact sports, and winning all the track meets, all the swimming meets, and every other athletic contest. And they're running around sending trannies out to talk to 3, 4, 5, and 6 years old, or 6, 7-year-old kids. What's that about? Everybody here knows this one. If you don't go to church on Sunday, you can't go anywhere else the rest of the week. That's to condition us to accept the church. Well, they're taking their opportunity to use these trannies to condition the children to, it's all right if you kiss your BFF in the mouth. It's all right if you hold your BFF's hands. It's all right if you hug up and show emotion to you. And we've got clowns like these sluts, what's her name, Charlize Theron, who have taken these boys from that they wouldn't even let her adopt in South Africa and dressing them in girls way before they have even hit 5 years old. So, I mean, she says it's to keep them from having to suffer being black men. What kind of crazy thing is that when we allow something along these lines to control what happens for our future? We need to take control. We need to start preaching about manhood, 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 duty, honor, obligation, responsibility, accountability, trustworthiness, work ethic, economics, common sense, political control, and self-improvement. And we need to do something about that. So,
thank you, Judge.
This COVID-19.
Candace, thanks so much for coming on. I mean, maybe I'm being too soft, but anybody who can talk, America's woke corporate structure into sending close to $100 million on the basis of that lame rap kind of gets my respect in a way.
She has my respect because she's unapologetic in her approach. She's telling you what she is. She's a Marxist. So Marxists steal money from other people and they enrich themselves and tell the people that they stole from are poor. And so she has stolen money from other people on the pretext of a lie that is Black Lives Matter. And she's enriched herself and she's brought 4 homes. I mean, you have to kind of appreciate the honesty. She's not hiding by any means, And so, yeah, I tend to agree with you here. She's a communist through and through, and she's been unbelievably unapologetic in her approach.
Al Sharpton must be looking at this and saying, I've done this for 40 years. Where did I go wrong? I don't have a house in Topanga Canyon.
Right, exactly
really
right. It's completely ridiculous. And, you're right. The corporations are standing behind her, which is incredibly interesting. And you pointed to something really important. These corporations that are pouring millions and millions of dollars into Black Lives Matter. And you're correct, they said we raised more than $90 million. How much more, we will never know. But $90 million, of which $21 million apparently went to, according to Black Lives Matter themselves, it went to building the black movement. Like, I don't even know what that means. $25 million going to building a black movement. Apparently, the black movement was Patrice moving herself, a black woman moving herself into other areas of the communities of people that she claims are oppressing black Americans. She's fearful of white people. White people are so bad. Well, why doesn't she want to live amongst black people? Why is she choosing to move herself into an all-white neighborhood? These are important questions.
Yeah, I think they are. It's Topanga Canyon, not Riverside County. Really quickly, the looting that we're seeing in Minneapolis was just reflexive. This police shooting does sound like it raises questions about the competence of the police officer and what's going on with the Minneapolis Police Department. Maybe they've lowered the standards. Maybe there aren't, enough cops. Who knows? We should find out, I think. But looting in immediate response to that, why would we put up with that?
We shouldn't put up with that, but the reason why we do is because the Democrats see some advantage in this, right? So right now you have a bunch of criminals that love Black Lives Matter as an organization. They love when a black person dies, and we don't know what the reasons are. We don't know what happened, but it signals to them that they are now allowed to run into the streets and grab whatever they want, whether it's from Target, whether it's from Walmart. And what's remarkable also is that these corporations are standing behind Black Lives Matter, right? They're pouring money into these corporations. And I remember most notably during the George Floyd riots, Target even came out and said, we don't even care that we were rioted and looted because we just stand with Black Lives Matter. That's not a normal thing for a corporation to do when it's losing money. So that means that a corporation must be getting something else, right? What is it? What are they investing in when they invest in the lie that is Black Lives Matter? What is the return? I think Josh Hawley alluded to it in the previous segment, and I think you're onto something when you say that the corporations seek to control this country. They're willing to give up money. They're willing to let their stores be rioted and looted because they see something bigger that they're gaining from these riots and these lootings and these lies, and that is control over this country. It's power, and it's sinister, and it's sick.
And if some
Anything. They run these ads to defame these guys, and y'all help and join in with it. Yeah, it ain't Nike, my nigga. Shit, it ain't no motherfucking Nike. Shit, if Jordan leave Nike, y'all won't even leave with him. That's how brainwashed y'all are. Y'all don't love Jordan. You love the people who validate Jordan, because you guys find validation through white people. It ain't good enough until a white person says good enough. That's why you keep worrying about what white people are doing. But I'm crazy, though. Yeah, I'm watching niggas with more money than the law allows stand in the street with their fists up. Niggas, put your arm down. Sit your ass down. What is it that you're trying to get accomplished? Because, nigga, you got all this shit right now that you can do it. I don't understand. But the reason why I shouted out LeVar Ball is because a father is a protector and a provider. And see, me going to the NBA as a young man, I didn't have that protector. I didn't have that somebody that could say, hold on, bitch, this is my motherfucking son. And see, LeVar Ball, he take the heat for his boys. See, he let his boys be quiet. And he go up there and cuss their ass out and tell them, what, you stay in your lane. You stay in your place, because he a man. He didn't let his boys take that heat. He took it. Yeah. And so what did the media start doing? We wonder if his kids can talk, trying to fuck his family structure up. He didn't let his boys talk. He's a controlling figure. Hey, y'all two young men, don't y'all fall for that shit. Y'all wouldn't be shit without y'all. Well, I ain't gonna say that, because a disrespectful nigga said that. I don't think you guys will be the men that you are today without your father.
Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Thing with greatness.